Alrighty, let's do this. Whew. What's up, everybody? Solo show, Sunday. Lots to talk about, too. Glad everybody's here with me today. Give everybody a couple minutes to get in. I got to run some crunches and stuff, too. So we're going to go through the whole process since we have this janky split slate. FanDuel doing two separate early slates of 2 games. DraftKings early is 3 games. So we're going to be all over the place here. Hope everybody's having a good weekend, at least. I'm going to do some changes over here, make myself a little bigger. I know it got talked about a little bit in the early show yesterday, but I did, in fact, sweep Adam. So shout out to Thrive Fantasy Brute for being the home of the greatest Thrive player in the history of the world, me. Sorry, Adam, for being not as good. I'll never hear this, so I don't mind saying it. Oh, God. Where's the Raptors news? Where's any news? Where is any news? I didn't play at all yesterday. I did the projection update in the morning, offloaded that to ship my money, and then I got away from it all. So not a lot of hot takes for me from yesterday, just in case. But I'm going to take a lap through everything. I'm going to go through every game at least a little bit. I'm going to load up our early ownership for the early slate, go through that. I'll switch it all out, run some crunches for the main slate, go through all of that. I got some time. Liverpool takes on Fulham in like 15 minutes. I might put that on while I'm sitting here. But I don't want to say that I'm not too worried about that one because then it's going to jinx me and it's going to be live on video. But if we can beat Bayern at their place, knock them out of Champions League, then I'm not going to worry too much about Fulham. Not that anybody is here for my my soccer takes. We're here for basketball. So let's just get it started. I'm going to run 2 crunches in the background first. One for FanDuel, one for DraftKings on the early slate so that we can at least talk about the same stuff. So let's load up FanDuel projections to start. Then we'll load up some DK. And then we'll see where we stand. It's a big process to like get ready on a slate by slate basis, especially with 2 gamers. Things get weird. Got to find the right settings. It's a lot. Okay, FanDuel is ready. That is a tiny, tiny player pool. So that's basically just telling me that I can have anybody I want. Fantastic. Did I grab the wrong slate? What do we have for early right now? Early slate ownership is... So this is early. It's Lakers and Charlotte. Okay, cool. So I'm running the wrong one. We're going to be all over the place here. All over the place. Every slate is different on every site. I hate Sundays, but it'll give us a lot to talk about. I don't have anywhere to be. Wife took the dogs out for a walk with another pup, so we might go a little long today. I hope you're excited. We're going to go through it all, start to finish. All right, let's redo FanDuel. Just the early. So we need these 2 games, and they go in. Done. What's going on, everybody? 5 minutes in. We got some time. Time to kill. If you guys have any questions, today's a good day. Let's treat this as sort of a Sunday office hours session for everybody. We can go through a lot of different stuff today. I am playing the early and the main slate on DK. I'll probably just play the main slate on FanDuel. I don't really enjoy the 2 gamers on FanDuel. They don't have the best contest structure, in my opinion. Yeah, so I'm going to do right now. Did Adam block me on Twitter yet? No. I'm going to go through basically 3 slates. I'm going to do the early slate for FanDuel because we have ownership for it. I'm going to do the early slate for DraftKings, which is a 3-gamer, and then the main slate will close it all out. Yeah, that's close enough, I guess. Am I playing cash on DK? Absolutely not. I never play cash. On any day, not even just today. Let's do okay. 2.5 and 30. Nope. 20? 22? That's gonna have to be about as good as it gets, I guess. All right, let's run a FanDuel crunch on the early slate. That'll be fun. Cool. I basically have nobody in this player pool. 2-game slates are rough. All right, FanDuel in. Let's change the settings. Good. We want just early. 27 people in the player pool for the early slate. Gotta love it. And I think I just froze Fantasy Cruncher. I did. Yikes. Kill that tab. Great start, guys. Absolutely great start. Am I doing MLB with Jake this year? Some of the shows will be with Jake, yeah. But yes, I'm doing MLB. Jake is doing MLB. Laffy, Adam. Yeah, it'll be like last year, but better. We have a lot of people being able to cover it, which is helpful. Okay, so clicking on my pool is breaking me here. Let's just not do that, I guess. Yeah, MLB can't come soon enough. I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I love the baseball season from a DFS perspective. It goes well for me, but I love basketball. I hate getting away from basketball. It's my favorite sport, so at least from a DFS perspective. When does MLB start on Awesemo.com? The first day of the season. Like, we're gonna have some content before the season starts, but it's not like we're gonna do spring training contests and stuff like that. But we'll have some content coming out. All right, FanDuel Crunch, cool. 1, gotta love that. 2 gamers are the worst. Try this again. What is everybody else playing? Chat, hit me with what you're looking at for this morning. Which slates are you playing? Why is this not giving me what I want? Early slate on DK is solid. I agree. Will I be doing some intro to FC videos for baseball. I absolutely will be doing that. Yes. So stay tuned for that. That's absolutely happening. Has to. Got a lot to talk about, you know? Let's see if we can actually get a FanDuel crunch out. All my settings are too tight, you know? One. Just one. Find that hard to believe. Where am I breaking down? Where's the positions at? Wow, that early slate is crazy. So LeBron and Kemba Walker are the only guys above 9K. Is that real? Is that real? LeBron and Kemba. 10-7 and 9,300. Everybody else is in the sixes. That is a wild, wild, wild scoring. Whew. Or salary structure. It's like breaking everything that I'm trying to do. I'm just going to set everybody to go full on and see if that matters. I'll sort through it afterwards. I can't even get it to crunch. How do you even spend all your salary? I'm not even trying to be funny. Like, that's... I think I have to leave, like, an overwhelming amount of salary on the table. 6, 12, 18, so that'd be 58.2. Does that get me there? I'm just going to set everybody to 100 and call it a day. 58.8. I don't like leaving that much salary on the table, but what else are we going to do? I never would have expected LeBron at 10-7 today to be like a must. I don't even know if he's playing. All right, there's 250 lineups crunch with no caps. You get 99% LeBron. That should be fantastic. Just what everybody wants in life. All right, FanDuel crunch goes in. Now let's try DraftKings. Sorry, I didn't anticipate this being such an absolute, utter disaster. But we'll talk about it all. Early slate is weird, man. Early slate is super weird. It's the first early slate I've seen so broken. So that should be really fun. If anybody's curious, I'm adding a column of our expected ownership. So that is the column that I add to Fantasy Cruncher. We're going to want to lower that and lower that. So if anybody's curious as to what I'm doing right now, instead of using just, your normal 5x, which is, let's just say that's intro to DFS. Some people use like 4x plus 10 or something to hit their target mark. I use the slate constraints and set dynamic values on a day-by-day basis. So I have numbers for every slate specifically based on who is available. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just changing out those numbers. Now we're going to run the DraftKings crunch for the early slate, which is significantly better than FanDuel's version. And let's see where we stand. Early tiers, yeah, that one's not happening. Sorry, gents. All right, let's get the FanDuel info in first, and then we'll start talking about the early slate. There's a lot to talk about here, just because of the way everything's broken up. Is there a way to filter the projections on the site to only show the 3 early games? Yes, just filter out the ones that aren't a part of it. You can filter every single bit of that entire table of projections. So just unselect the teams that are only in the early. Or just select the teams that are only in the early. I guess is the way that we want to say that. Get ready, because FanDuel is going to be ridiculous. All right, delete and refresh. We'll see what my exposures look like. And this is what I normally do. before a show. You're watching the entire process happen. I select my top 100 lineups to give my own personal exposures. So these are ranked 1 to 100. That's how I rank them out now. There's so much LeBron James. It's insanity. It's absolute and utter insanity. Early slate for DraftKings having 3 games makes this so much better, especially with not having that Lakers game on. All right, let's paste this over here. DraftKings Crunch should be done, and then we can actually talk about individual games. And we'll go through this entire process again once we get to the main slate. Now, at least that one will be balanced. Hey, Josh, I hate your exposures. They are big bankroll exposure, and is he playing? I don't have any idea what any of that sentence means. Sorry. All right, DK Crunch and refresh. Top Hundy. All right, now we're in. Let's talk games. So, Knicks and Lakers. New York Knicks 107.5 implied total. Lakers 111.5. So 4-point favorites in New York. Pace up spot for the Knicks. Now, for everybody listening, this is a part of the early only on FanDuel. It's just the 12 o'clock game and the 1 o'clock game. On DraftKings, this is showdown only. It is not a part of any slate. So I'll start on the FanDuel side since this is the most relevant piece of information. I don't really play a ton of showdown, but we could talk about a couple guys that look okay. On FanDuel, I mean, you almost have to play LeBron because there's no downside to playing LeBron. It's rare that you see a scenario where there's only 2 guys above the average salary mark. It also makes punting on FanDuel really interesting because you don't need the additional salary of getting like a $3,500 guy in there. So the early slate on FanDuel is really confusing. I can't see a way where you're not building around LeBron. Similarly speaking, Kyle Kuzma looks to be, if we want to see my exposures, that would be column Y here for FanDuel. Kyle Kuzma looks to be my second most popular guy, 6,500 on FanDuel. I got him in 82% of my top 100. So LeBron and Kuzma going 1-2 for me out of this game. Well, let's go back to the Knicks because, you know, they're obviously the trickiest team. I hate this Knicks team so much, but if everybody is in for the Knicks, then it's not as bad as it seems. They haven't been as crazy over the last week. I guess week would be the right length of time. Maybe 2 weeks. If I look at they don't have anybody like up in the air for today, do they? Outside of Dennis Smith Jr. New York Knicks. Where you at? LMN. Oh, and Vonleh. Okay. So if Dennis Smith is in, I like him quite a bit. I get him at 35%. I assume that the Q tag is keeping his ownership down, but it's a decent spot to go. Dotson is the safest play, I would say, coming from New York. 5,900, going to play around 30 minutes, or at least should. His ownership's at like 50%, and that's where I'm at. That one just makes the most sense. Moutier is at 35%. I have him at 8 right now, just because I have Dennis Smith in. I greatly prefer Dennis Smith to Moutier if Dennis Smith plays. If Dennis Smith is out, obviously fire up your Emmanuel Moutier. If Noah Vonleh is out, it probably isn't going to matter. I would see Lance Thomas getting minutes to get him into the 20s, which is in in a normal day, you'd be okay with that. You could use Lance Thomas as a punt, but you have no need to play a $3,500 Lance Thomas on the early slate because he sucks. He's a 0.6 FanDuel point per minute guy. You don't need that savings. So if Noah Vonleh is out, don't worry too much about Lance Thomas. The real question would come down to how many minutes does Luke Cornett get, or potentially Mario Hezonja. I don't really have any way to answer any of that information, so the starting lineup would become very important if we don't have Vonleh. If Vonleh is in, I'm happy to have him at 5,200. I just want to stick to the guys from New York that have been getting the run. So DeAndre Jordan, Mitchell Robinson to an extent, but him being only $300 cheaper than DeAndre Jordan makes it a little difficult. The crazy part here is that DeAndre Jordan is getting a lot more expected ownership, close to double. I don't see the gap between them as that high. So if you want to be different on FanDuel, I think that you can go to a little bit more Mitchell Robinson than DeAndre Jordan. That could be a place to get yourself slightly different for a two-gamer. If I'm ranking the Knicks, it would go Dotson, Dennis Smith if he's in, then Mitchell Robinson, then DeAndre Jordan. That's because of ownership, so keep an eye on it. And then Alonzo Trier. If Vonleh is in, he's fine. He's just a guy, though. If he is out, keep a close eye on who the announced starter is. If it's Lance Thomas, you can pretty much ignore him. Now, on the Lakers side, I touched on it right out of the gate. You just have to play LeBron because you have the salary to do so. His ownership is going to be 90%, and I think that's fine. I like Rondo quite a bit. He's at 60% expected ownership on the early slate. I've got more than that. Same for Kuzma. Those three guys would be the core for me coming out of the Lakers. I think that in a perfect world, Alex Caruso would have been interesting, but again, you don't have to go all the way down in salary. And then, Josh Hart at 4K, if he is in, is a guy that I'd be interested in. But the main priority out of the Lakers are LeBron, Rondo, Kuzma. You don't need to get too cute otherwise. If you want to go to JaVale, I think it looks good. I think that he's comparable to DeAndre Jordan. Actually, that's the perfect pivot. If you want to get off of DeAndre Jordan, it might not necessarily be Mitchell Robinson. It's probably JaVale McGee. I've got a little bit more than the field of JaVale. He's $1,300 cheaper than DeAndre Jordan, but you can get... I see them as comparable plays. How often do I have them beating each other? So that would be... Did I spell his name wrong? Not McGree. That's not how you type. Why is none of this working? Why am I not getting JaVale? Oh, I know why. Not a part of that player list. Okay. So am I assuming LeBron plays? I am assuming LeBron plays. Should we be assuming that he doesn't play? He's probable. He's probable. Now, if you're playing the showdown slate for Knicks Lakers, I like Alex Caruso on DraftKings at 3,200 as the guy that you need to pay down on, particularly if Josh Hart is out. If we're talking about guys that I like just in general, I think that Emmanuel Mudiay is interesting at 5K, and he's essentially he's a lock, really, if Dennis Smith Jr. ends up being out. Let's see. If it's really hard to not want to focus on LeBron James in that spot. I think my favorite piece of showdown from Knicks Lakers is probably Kuzma. 8,800. That would probably be the guy that I would go for. But it's really hard to get away from LeBron James. I would have to look at the individual builds. I just don't see the Knicks grading out all that well outside of Moutier. And I like Moutier whether Dennis Smith is in or out. But if he is out, then Moutier is firmly a part of a showdown lineup. I would much prefer DeAndre Jordan to Mitchell Robinson in showdown as well. I don't have too many showdown takes. It's not for me. It just feels like randomness. So I'm gonna try to stick to mostly the early stuff. So that's where I land on Knicks Lakers. Now let's take a look at Heat and Hornets. We're going to be talking about two separate things here. So this game is a part of the early only on FanDuel, and it's a part of the normal early slate on DK, where there are 3 games. So this game goes along with Knicks and Lakers on FanDuel. If you're trying to keep up, I know it's a lot. If DSJ sits, that certainly opens up Kadeem Allen. More so in a showdown slate than it does in the 2-gamer. I don't know what his price is on FanDuel, but I assume it's stupidly low. Yeah, he's 3,900. He doesn't end up being that interesting on FanDuel if DSJ is out, again, because you have an unlimited amount of salary, basically. So what you're really trying to do is find the highest combination of players. It's kind of crazy. So I don't have much interest in Kadeem Allen. Sorry, Kadeem Allen. I feel like I'm turning my back on a brother since he's from Wilmington, but no thanks. Okay, Heat and Hornets. 108.25 implied total for the Heat. 104.75 for the Hornets. This is a gross matchup. 2 of the lowest implied totals of the slate. Hornets, in fact, 104.75 is the lowest number on the entire Sunday package. We'll start on the Heat side. I mean, you have to have a lot of this one way or the other. It's awful. Josh Richardson would probably be the guy that I would look at first. 6,100 on FanDuel, 5,800 on DK. Just because of his position and his price point, he's a guy that I would have quite a bit of. Double the field right now. It's just a direction I would like to go. Whiteside getting a lot of love, 27% expected ownership on FanDuel. I'm not sure I agree with that. I understand that he has, some massive upside, but he's just not getting those minutes. So I've got him in for 22. You have Bam in for 26. And I would much rather have Bam compared to Whiteside. Now, Bam is getting 55% ownership as expected on a 2-gamer on FanDuel. So I'm right there. The guy that I'm getting the most over the field on from Miami on FanDuel is Richardson. Similarly, he's the same guy for me on DraftKings. That's just where I want to be. Everybody else I'm basically with the field on. Mildly high on Waiters on DraftKings at 4,300. That doesn't make me feel good. But he's only at 14% ownership, so it could be worth a look. Wade's minutes have been down. Don't get the sense that a random Sunday game against the Hornets or the spot where they break them out for like 29, but who knows? This is a big one for them. These teams are jockeying. I don't have the interest in Whiteside that the public has, so I'm okay there. Just with the field on Winslow, just with the field on Bam, slightly light on Kelly Olynyk. Most of these guys are priced better on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings, so I definitely like Olynyk more there, but it's just not that interesting for me. Like, look, I'm getting 36% Kelly Olynyk. That is under the field on FanDuel. I'm getting 16 on DraftKings. That's under the field on DK. Olynyk is a low-level priority for me coming out of Miami. If I'm ranking the Heat on FanDuel, it's Richardson, Adebayo, Olynyk, I guess, but it's not as if I'm over the field. Winslow, Waiters, Wade, Whiteside. So many W's. Winslow, Waiters, Wade, Whiteside. It's a lot. Josh, you got Wade playing. I do. For right now, anybody that's questionable is just in for me. So Winslow and Wade are both in. If they end up being out, Everybody on Miami looks pretty good then because they're just going to get minutes. Biggest boost if Winslow and Wade are out, probably Waiters and Magruder. On the Hornets side, feel free to play as much Kemba Walker as you want. It's basically, he's in the exact same spot as LeBron. I got 78%. We have him projected for 80. It's just sort of how this is going to have to work. Can't feel too bad about it at 9,300 either. Jeremy Lamb as well. I'm right there with the field. I got 60%. Field's at 56. What I'm really doing is not getting to as much Nick Batum or Marvin Williams. Batum is at 3,600 on FanDuel. Marvin Williams, I don't know. Why did I say 3,600? Batum is at 6K on FanDuel, 36% ownership. Marvin Williams is at 5,600 on FanDuel, 31% ownership. I have about a third of that. So Batum and Marvin Williams are not guys I'm getting to. Frank Kaminsky, on the other hand, at 4,200 seems to be a little bit more in play. If Kaminsky is going to be at 9% ownership and Marvin Williams and Batum are both in the 30s, I like giving a little bit more to Frank Kaminsky and rolling the dice for just a 2-gamer. Now on DK, since this is a much more normal slate, I think Kemba is fine at 8,300. He's just sort of where he's supposed to be. The guy standing out most to me is Jeremy Lamb at 6K. We have him projected for 14% ownership. I have Lamb as the best play on the Hornets. From a DraftKings perspective, I have him at 37% ownership, which is almost triple the field. I think he's just at a weird price tag. Similarly, I'm happy to use Frank Kaminsky on a 3-gamer. Not getting any love. Terrible price on DraftKings, $200 more than it is on FanDuel, but that'll work. Movie Hood, I'm fading LeBrick and Kemba. I mean, if you want to leave $6,000 on the table on FanDuel, have at it. I can't imagine wanting to leave off the 2 guys that will most likely be the 2 highest scoring players, but sure. Oh, that coffee tastes so good. It's like oddly cold in my office today. Oh, that's because it's oddly cold outside. Got a crisp 48 degrees. So on DK for the Hornets, I'm only playing 5 of these guys. Walker, Lamb, Batum, Williams, Kaminsky. I'm way under the field on Batum. Jeremy Lamb is the guy that I'm going to most. So if Jeremy Lamb has a decent day, that's good for me. Alrighty, now we're going to hop to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers. This is mostly going to be DraftKings talk for Bucks, Sixers, and Pistons, Raptors. I don't think we have ownership for that other slate, so on the off chance that Tom or someone associated with the site is DSJ out? DSJ out, Noah Vonleh out. Well, shit, okay. Here we go. It's a good time to have that happen, right? Let's make the changes while we're on here. We'll see the impact. Let's go to the Knicks. Here we go. So, first things first. DSJ out, which means we're going to give Moody a 34 minutes. So, let's go 34 and 0. And then we'll get Kadeem Allen in here. He's going to play at least 14 there. Maybe 2 here. We've got to get Noah Vonleh out of here. Josh doesn't have his news notifications on. Not when I'm in a spreadsheet doing this. Who do I like better than Batum other than LeBron? His history versus Miami is not bad. I would have no idea. I've never looked at any player's individual history. Okay, so we've got 26 more minutes to assign. So Noah Vonleh played 9. They played Mitchell Robinson and DeAndre Jordan with each other for at least a minute or 2, which is kind of crazy. So we have to assume that Lance Thomas gets like at least 16 minutes. And then the Unicorn Net probably gets something similar. So I expect someone to get like 26 minutes, but it's really hard to pick which guy it is. So if you really just want to dive in, just grab somebody. Kevin Knox has not been playing enough for me to give him a big boost. I can't assume that Mitchell Robinson and DeAndre Jordan are going to share any minutes. I think that I'm going to have to move those down towards the guards. I don't really think I need... How much have they been running Kevin Knox at the 4? Yeah, let's move 10 of those minutes to the 3. And then I can move some of these minutes out. That'll make me balance up a little bit better. So let's go 16 and 10. This is the process, guys, every day. So it's fun to walk through sometimes. We're going to need to give Kadeem Allen another 10 there. Now I have 6 more minutes to assign. John Jenkins might see those minutes too. He can probably get... I already got him at 12. That's fine. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys in the rotation. I think that's fine. Dotson at 30. Trier at 26 probably feels a little high, but I don't like it. I think that I just can't trust. I can give Knox 28. I think that's fine. At which point I have 4 more minutes to assign. I'll give 2 to John Jenkins. Make this 14 and 14. We'll give Lance Thomas 18. What's the impact on the New York Knicks? So, for the Knicks, Emmanuel Mudiay is by far the best play on the Knicks. It is not close. Just go that direction. He's a much better play than Kadeem Allen. You have the money to spend, so don't let that matter all that much. DeAndre Jordan would be 2 for me. Mitchell Robinson is close as 3. Keep an eye on their ownership so that you can flip-flop those guys if they get too egregious, because I don't think they're separated by as much as it seems. There is no issue with running Kadeem Allen at 3,900. You're just going to end up leaving a lot of money on the table. I don't see that as a particularly big issue on a 2-game slate with this salary structure. Just know that raw points are going to carry a lot of it. When you start having the ability to leave $1,000 or $2,000 on the table, what you're saying in that is, I'm trying to get just raw points, and value is a little bit less important. And in that case, I think that Kadeem Allen's raw point total is a little tough to get to in this 2-game slate. In a perfect world, you get a lot of him because he's 3,900 and a great potential drop salary. And I don't disagree there, but your drop salary doesn't mean as much if you're already saving $2,000. So I don't really love Kadeem Allen all that well. In a perfect, on a normal slate, he would be perfect and he would be a fantastic value. I don't see it here. But that's where we're at now. I'm going to push out the projections update soon enough. But let's hop back to Milwaukee and Philly. And again, I don't have ownership for this in-between slate on FanDuel, so I'm really not going to pay too much attention to it. Tournaments look terrible as well. So DK, this is a part of the early. We don't have Malcolm Brogdon for 6 to 8 weeks, which is quite a bummer. He had a tear in some of his plantar fascia. So there are some minutes to go around in Milwaukee. It's a pace-up spot for the Bucks. 6.5-point favorites at home against the Sixers. By all accounts, the Sixers should be at full strength. I like Giannis at 10-8. I don't think that he is someone that I need to go crazy about. We're projecting him at 50% ownership, and that's where I'm at. So nothing I want to go nuts with for Giannis. Now, Bledsoe, we're projecting 44% ownership. He is at 6,100. We have no Malcolm Brogdon. I've got 73% Bledsoe. He is by far my favorite play in this game. He's the guy that I want to have the most. It is not particularly close. We've got Middleton at 32% expected ownership. I'm just under 50. He's the guy, I would say that I like him second most relative to the field, but I do have 65% Nico Mirotic at 4,500. He's only at 40% ownership. Saw a couple additional minutes with Brogdon out, and I think that they can do that again here. So I really, really like being on the Milwaukee side. Giannis, Bledsoe, Middleton, Mirotic, getting quite a bit of those guys. I'm just going to be loading up on the Bucks. Brook Lopez is at 24% expected ownership. I'm a little bit under the field on Lopez, but he's certainly in play. I got 18%. I don't have a ton of interest in Pat Connaughton, but 3,500 needs to be looked at on a 3-gamer. I've got him in for 24 minutes. He could see a little bit more than that too with Brogdon out. So I'd be going 1 to 5 on my screen. Giannis, Bledsoe, Middleton, Lopez, Mirotic. A little bit of Connaughton works. Now on the Philly side, also pace up spot, but not a fun defensive matchup. We've got Embiid at flat 10. He's at 18% expected ownership. I prefer Giannis to Embiid. I probably won't have a crazy amount of Embiid just because of his position. He's not really the guy I'm looking for. Ben Simmons is the Sixer that I like the most. 18% expected ownership on Simmons on DraftKings. I got to 33. That $8,100 price tag is kind of crazy. It's just a guy that I want to be I want to have a part of. I think he grades out as the best Sixer. I'll have a little bit of Jimmy Butler, mostly with the field. I have very little interest in Tobias Harris at 7,200. I have very little interest in JJ Redick when everybody is healthy, at least when his price is at 51. So coming from the Sixers side, Embiid, Simmons, Butler is all I'm really looking at, with Simmons being the clear play and Embiid and Butler just kind of being there for me. Oh, that coffee tastes so damn good. So damn good. Let's head to the Pistons and Raptors now. And again, this is going to be mostly a DK talk. Pistons 107.5 implied total. Raptors 109.5. So Raptors 2-point favorites in Detroit. And we don't know what the hell's going on here for Toronto. We've got Kyle Lowry questionable. Danny Green is probable. Van Vliet is questionable. I have not projected Fred Van Vliet in right now. And then Ibaka, obviously, not able to participate in this one. So we'll start on the Pistons side. Andre Drummond is 9,900 on FanDuel, which you should have no problem getting to if you're playing any FanDuel afternoon slates. He's 8,700 on DraftKings. It's just really difficult to want to play Joel Embiid on a day where Andre Drummond is on the same slate. Why am I not getting him? What is populating that player list? You would think I would know this because I made it, but this player comp list. Why am I taking it from Yahoo? Or why aren't they on Yahoo? That's the problem. Nah, we got it. So let's take a look at this. This is why I have less interest in Joel Embiid on DraftKings. We have Andre Drummond at 8,700. We have Joel Embiid at 10K. Their ownership it's not separated by that much. 18% for Embiid, 27% for Drummond. But I have Drummond outscoring Joel Embiid relative to their salary. I think he's a better play like 62% of the time. So I have them separated by basically 2 fantasy points, but Embiid needs to beat Drummond by like 7 to be a better play because of their salary. And it just doesn't happen enough. So I am going to go to quite a bit more of Andre Drummond. For all the people out there that hate Blake Griffin and the way that he has been playing as of late, he is at 7,500 on DraftKings. You cannot ignore him. He's at 43% expected ownership. I've got 35 right now. I'm going right back to the Blake Griffin well. I can't imagine not wanting to do that. It's scary. Clearly, he has not been the best over the past 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm going right back there. Reggie Jackson, 4,700 on DraftKings. He's at 47% ownership as well. I'm coming in under that number, just 30. There's a decent chance that I'm underrepresenting him. He's been at a point per minute over his last 30. I have a number significantly less than that, but in a defensive matchup with this low implied total, I think he probably ends up mildly over projected. So if you think he plays 30 minutes, he's there, and clearly I'm getting 30% of him. So it's not as if I'm getting away from him, but if I were building a single lineup, I would probably end up with a lineup without Reggie Jackson, even though he is at 47% expected ownership. Luke Kennard at 4,300 seems fine. We'll be right with the field. Ish Smith is there as well for you at 41. But the main draw out of the Pistons, don't overthink it. It's Andre Drummond. That's where I want to be. Now on the Toronto side, as I mentioned, I have Fred VanVleet out. I have Kyle Lowry in. I have Danny Green in. Danny Green is probable. If VanVleet ends up playing, you basically just take the minutes away from Jeremy Lin and remove everything from Pat McCaw. So you don't play VanVleet, and you aren't really playing Lin or McCaw, so it shouldn't matter all that much. This one should be fun. This is a pace down spot for Toronto. It's tough defensive matchup as well. Kawhi Leonard is $8,600 on DraftKings. He is at 38% ownership. I got 7. And this is another case where I know they play different positions here. I would much rather have Andre Drummond than Kawhi Leonard. I have 45% Drummond to 7% Kawhi. They're separated by $100. I have Drummond projected for 6.8. Wish it was 9, but whatever. 6.8 DraftKings points per minute, or DraftKings points more than Kawhi at just an extra $100. So I only have 7% Kawhi. It's like the scariest thing in the world, but I'm just not going to be there. The one guy that I'm looking to most is $6,700 Pascal Siakam, 21% expected ownership. I don't have much interest in Lowry at 11% ownership. We have Marc Gasol at 21% expected ownership, 6,400. I would rather go to like Blake Griffin for a little bit more. Who else is around Marc Gasol? And the problem here for Gasol is that these guys are just center eligible. It's Embiid, it's Drummond, and then Marc Gasol. We haven't even touched on guys like Whiteside and stuff yet either. But there's only so much center eligibility to go around. And if I take Marc Gasol, that means that I'll have less Andre Drummond. And I can't imagine wanting to have less Andre Drummond. So I see Andre Drummond so well, and I see Marc Gasol as just incredibly not interesting today. Just because of the way the rosters break out. I have 3% Marc Gasol. I don't think that I would take another center on the slate ahead of him. I would rather everybody that's on the screen right now: Embiid, Drummond, Blake, Siakam, Whiteside, Lopez, Olynyk, Adebayo, Mirotic, Kaminsky. Because of salaries, I would rather have every single guy that I just named before I would take Marc Gasol. That is going to be a very aggressive take that I assume people have a problem with. However, that's where I'm at. I only give you guys the truth. Even if it's outlandish, I will give you the truth. That's where I have to be. So, Marc Gasol is not a guy that I'm going to on DK today. Just not for me. Really, the only Raptor I want is Siakam. Give me most of the Pistons. That's where we're at. That is where we're at. So, just to summarize the DraftKings early slate, because I know that's kind of important right now. I'm going to share. This is my actual. These are my priority exposures. In my top 100 lineups, these are the guys that I'm getting the most. Eric Bledsoe and Nico Mirotic, 73% and 65%. They're the two guys on DraftKings that I have above 50. I am quite a bit over the field on both guys. Chris Middleton at 48%, quite a bit over the field. Then we've got Giannis and Drummond. I'm basically just loading up on the Bucks, as you can see. I would probably set a rule to only have 3 of Bledsoe, Mirotic, Giannis, and Bledsoe, Middleton, Mirotic, and Giannis. I would set a rule to only get 3. Eric Johnson, thoughts on Mirotic? He's my second most exposed guy on DraftKings on the early slate. I love him. Love him. But yeah, what you're looking at, this is the order of my exposures right now. That's everybody I've got on DK in my top 100. That's where we're at. Pistons about to get their doors blown off after talking all that shit last game. I don't even remember them talking shit. I got a terrible memory. So that's what the early slate looks for me on DK. For FanDuel, I would have to run this again since we got the dueling Knicks news right out of the gate. But salary-wise, it's super weird. I've never seen it where you can't even spend all the money if you wanted to without forcing in LeBron and Kemba. It's wild. Would I play Drummond and Blake in the same lineup? Absolutely. I wouldn't even think twice. Blake Griffin's 7,500. Drummond's 8,700. When these guys are like 10-4 and 96, that's when it's a problem. But right now, not an issue whatsoever, especially on a 3-gamer. They're both going to play 34-plus minutes, Drummond in particular. I would guess Tony Snell starts. That doesn't really mean anything for Snell. It's just less minutes that Pat Connaughton or Dante DiVincenzo can get. So that's the lap through the early games. Now we can actually talk about the late set the normal way. So I'm going to have to reload everything here. So let's talk through it. I've got to make all the changes. So we'll put in the 4 main games. Sundays are the absolute dirt worst. I hate it so much. And let's set our target scores. I kind of like this main slate. It's a nice little 4-gamer. All right, target scores for FanDuel set. We refresh. Let's go to DraftKings. Set our target scores. Ooh. Which Adam was on so I could talk some garbage. All right. Those scores are set. And then we can get into everything else. Close enough. All right, let's take out ownership for the early. Transition that to the main. Where are we at? Man, I can understand a word Killigowan saying. Not even remotely close. Sorry, man. Can we get a basic spreadsheet video? Honestly, your best bet is to just watch the stuff that's already out there on YouTube. Doesn't necessarily have to be about DFS. All right. DK ownership in. FanDuel ownership in. Now let's crunch out 150 on the main slate. Texting on the bus. That makes a lot more sense. Let's get the projections out of there. Let's grab the fan. Wait, who am I in right now? FanDuel. Let's grab the FanDuel rosters. Hey, spoiler alert, everybody. Gonna have a lot of lottery marketing. I know that's been going super well lately. All right. FanDuel lineups are in. And main slate is selected. Actually, I need to lower this, so we'll go back down to 0.6. You guys ready to play a lot of lottery marketing? Get dogged out again? It's been going great. Any ownership to George Hill? No. None. All right. 58.8 works. 4, we're all good. FanDuel. This spreadsheet is not available to people that sign up to Osmo. This is my own personal sheet. Not that, like, I would happily give this to everybody. It would just be useless. It's mostly just a framework so that everybody can see what's going on. All the actual projections and stuff exist outside of this spreadsheet. So it's not like it would just work for anybody else. All of the inputs come from a different place. All right, let's get the DraftKings projections in, run a crunch, and then we'll update. So much marketing. All right, DraftKings projections in. Do we have salary set up right? 49.5. Good, good, good. And crunch. Let's do live before lock at Casey's. Speaking of live before lock, people ask, yeah, Fast Eddie Fear will be here for you guys to do live before lock. No worries there, everybody. You guys will be covered. Do I ever hand build lineups? Never. Not really sure why I would want to do that. Okay, FanDuel is done. Odds Harden misses. I hope he doesn't. FanDuel lineups in. Did I not change this? Nope, certainly didn't. Turns out I didn't even update the DraftKings projections. So fantastic, Josh. Great job. Oh, great job. What time live before lock? Early slate or main slate? It'll be at 5 today. All right, there we go. Came in late. What are Josh's thoughts on Anunoby? I don't have any. I don't have any thoughts. I like him in basketball. I don't care for him in fantasy. Alrighty, there we go. Main slate, DraftKings crunch done. Let's refresh FanDuel and delete. I hate talking about split up slates, so we should have a lot to talk about here on the main slate. People making fun of me in here for Dotson over Gordon. I would almost assuredly have Dotson over Gordon. Wait, what Gordon? Oh, different slate? You must be talking about like yesterday or 2 days ago or something. Sean V. Yeah, that makes more sense. Thoughts on Wiggins and Dinwiddie in a GPP? We're getting there, man. We're getting there. All right, DraftKings lineups are in now. Top 100. Here we go. Main slate kicking off. 2 games at 6, 2 games at 9 o'clock. So keep a close eye on where you have your exposures. The Orlando Magic are hosting the Atlanta Hawks. 116.5 implied total for the Magic, 109 for the Hawks. LeBron is in officially. This is a massive pace-up spot for Orlando. Great matchup all across the board. I have been smashing Orlando lately, and this is certainly not changing. So Orlando gains 5 additional possessions because of this game. That is massive, 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 massive. So we've got $10K on FanDuel, $9,200 on DraftKings, $44 on Yahoo. Nikola Vucevic, really hard to not want to be here. I got 46% Vooch right now on FanDuel, 38 on DraftKings. Those are both significantly more than the field, which is in the low 20s. You just want to be here as far as I'm concerned. Vooch looking fantastic on both sites. Similarly, Aaron Gordon, 7,300 on FanDuel, 7,200 on DK. I have a lot of Aaron Gordon on FanDuel. 7,300 is a really nice price tag. If we take a look at the position, that's really the biggest piece of all of this. No idea what just happened downstairs, but it was incredibly loud. Aaron Gordon, 7,300. He is the cheapest of like the top tier. After him, you're dropping down to Bagley at 6K, which is a really difficult way to go with Bagley on potentially a minutes limit. After that, you have to go all the way down to Kurucs. So Gordon naturally sees his way into a bunch of lineups, but I also just think that he's in a really good spot. So I love Vooch. I love Aaron Gordon, both on FanDuel. I don't need to have a ton of Aaron Gordon on DraftKings. I'll just be with the field. John Isaac, no problem being with the field. Fournier, I'm pretty heavy on DraftKings, 39%. Not feeling as froggy on FanDuel just because of positions. But DJ Augustine is the star of this show on FanDuel. I have 57% right now. He's at 4,900, should play 28 to 30 minutes, and he's just simply too cheap, particularly in a spot where you're gaining a lot of extra possessions and your expected score on a per minute basis is significantly higher because of the pace. So if I'm ranking Orlando on FanDuel, it's Augustine 1, Aaron Gordon 2, Vooch 3, although in theory Vooch is the number 1 play. It's just you can only play one center, so their volume looks different. But those 3 guys are going to represent a large amount of exposure in my lineups on the main slate for FanDuel. After that, it's just the step down to John Isaac and potentially Jerry Grant as a FanDuel punt. He's coming up in 27% of my lineups right now. Don't overreact to me thinking that I like Jerry Grant. I just like having at least 1 or 2 sub 4K guys in my lineups, and I won't set ownership caps on those guys to get it. I just want to have enough. I want to maximize the amount of money I have across 8 spots. But Gordon, Vooch, DJ Augustine are the guys to look at on FanDuel. On DraftKings, these guys are really smushed together. I have DJ Augustine, Evan Fournier, John Isaac, and Vooch all in the 30s in ownership. And I have Terrence Ross and Aaron Gordon right around 20. But I want to have a lot of the Orlando Magic. That's where I'm at. Yeah, imagine loving Jerry Grant. Yeah, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. No Khem Birch for me. Now, on the Atlanta side, a little bit of a pace down spot. They're getting a matchup with what amounts to the best fantasy defense on the entire slate from start to finish. I essentially don't have the Hawks. I have 13% Trae Young on FanDuel. I have 17 on DraftKings. It's basically with the field. Otherwise, I'm good. I got 1% of Torian Prince, and that's it. Flat zeros across the board on FanDuel. Flat zeros across the board on DK. Otherwise, John Collins is 9,100 on FanDuel. I need no part of that. Dwayne Dedmon is getting a little love on DK, 5,400. I don't necessarily have an issue with it, but I'm not getting there. I just don't want the Hawks. Everything I want is on the Orlando side. I don't have any takes here. Collins is better on DK for 7,500, but it's just not for me. This is a really rough spot for Atlanta, so I am not going to anything in Atlanta outside of Trae Young. That's all I've got. Sacramento Kings hosting the Chicago Bulls. 119 implied total for the Kings, 112.5 for the Bulls, so 6.5-point favorites for the Kings at home here. Relatively pace neutral spot for Sacramento. And going to be a lot of exposure here. De'Aaron Fox, I have in roughly 40% of my lineups on both FanDuel and DK. Hard to avoid, 8K FanDuel, 7,100 DraftKings. Similarly, going right back to the Buddy Hieldwell, $300 cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DK, which is lunacy. 60% Buddy Hield in my lineups on FD, 50% on DraftKings. I'm not expecting Bagley to get, major run. I'm just giving him 20 minutes until we get word that he's going to play more than that. I can't really make the change. Willie Cauley-Stein for 5,200 on DraftKings looks really nice. His minutes have stabilized quite a bit. So I've got roughly double the field of Willie Cauley-Stein on both DK and FanDuel. That's a direction I want to go. You could use a little bit of Harry Giles on FanDuel. You could use quite a bit of Harry Giles if you'd like on DraftKings at 3,900. Don't play him and Willie Cauley-Stein in a lineup together, but I don't mind getting yourself some Harry Giles as a value as of right now. I will not have 33% of him compared to 5, but I will have some Harry Giles. On the off chance that Willie Cauley-Stein gets into foul trouble, like Harry Giles getting a couple extra minutes, it's what you're looking for on a 4-gamer. Harrison Barnes is fine on FanDuel, 5,600, just because of the position and having to start 2 guys. I have zero interest in him on DraftKings, where he's $300 more expensive. So just coming out of this game, Fox and Hield are the stars. Those are the guys you'd like the most. Barnes on FanDuel, Giles on DK are my site-specific stuff. And then don't be afraid to go to Willie Cauley-Stein. Now, the Bulls. Major pace-up spot. They're gaining 4 possessions here. Kings' defense hasn't been as crazy good as it's been, so this is a decent spot for Chicago. Zach LaVine could have been the shooting guard for the Kings this year. They signed him to an offer sheet. Bulls matched. I've got 27% LaVine on FanDuel, which is more than the field, just with the field on DK. You definitely want to have some Zach LaVine today. But the guy that I cannot get away from, the guy that I will continue to smash, as I said before with Laffy, Lauri Markkanen, 7,700 on FanDuel, 7,300 on DraftKings. I have 65% Markkanen on FanDuel, 42 on DK, and I know people are going to freak out. So let's have a bigger conversation about this. Markkanen has not been great lately, and everybody sees that. And immediately people are going to see that and think like, oh, you're playing too much Markkanen. He's been garbage. Here's the deal. His rates since the Otto Porter deal and since the deadline are what I have in here. So while he might not be having while all the pieces aren't getting put together for a game, he's still performing at the rate that's giving him this sort of exposure for me. So I can't get away from Lauri Markkanen. He's rebounding a ton, and that's just where I'm going to be. The pace up spot is really advantageous here. He doesn't really have anything to worry about defensively. I mean, it's certainly not Bagley. So try not to worry too much about the the totals you're getting from a fantasy perspective from Markkanen, because his rates, his baseline assist rate and rebounding rate, blocks and steals, his usage, they're all high. It's just not all coming together at the same time. So that is where I want to be right now. Quite a bit of Lauri Markkanen. At the same time, Otto Porter, 7K on FanDuel, 6,500 on DraftKings. Because of positions, I will have quite a bit of Porter on FanDuel. I'll just be with the field on DK. On DraftKings for the Bulls, I'm just kind of with the field on their big four. Levine, Markkanen, Porter, Dunn. Ooh, I should not be putting Chris Dunn in the big four. On FanDuel, it's 65% Markkanen, 44% Porter, 27% Levine. I don't really want anything else from the Bulls. Give me those top three guys. Yeah, Cantor 33, that's a good point. This is baseball analysis. His peripherals have been good. They have. They have. I'm going to be really sad. I've got like 2 sips of coffee left. All right. That's it for Kings and Bulls. Let's move to the 9 o'clock games. Houston Rockets hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves. 115.75. No thoughts on Lopez. That's correct. I don't have thoughts on Lopez. He's not going to be in anything more than throwaway lineups for me. 115.75 implied total for the Rockets. 109.75 for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ooh, clicked on way too much stuff and mixed up all my windows. There we go. 6-point line, and we've got a lot up in the air here. So let's just hit all of the news that we're waiting for this game, because it's a bit of a doozy. Hey, Danny UK, if you don't want to listen to this guy, you can just leave for 5 minutes. How's that? Considering Eddie's never done a morning show in the history of our channel, Eddie will be back for Live Before Lock. So feel free to come back at that point in time, but I don't need you here now. Deuces, Danny UK. So, Houston side. Chris Paul is in. James Harden is questionable. Everything hangs on that. I have Harden in right now. Obviously. This game is at 9 o'clock. Hopefully we get this news by 5 o'clock. If James Harden is in, I am underweight on Harden. I'm underweight on FanDuel. I'm underweight on DK. I am massively overweight on Chris Paul, ex-Cossack. Wonder what Josh does in real life if someone doesn't like him. Here's the thing. In real life, you don't have people walk up to you and be like, I don't like you. Where's a different person to be in front of me? That's just not a thing. Real life doesn't exist like a YouTube chat. Imagine coming to a channel where, like, I'm on a lot of the stuff we do. Imagine coming to a channel and being like, where's the guy that's never on at this time? Let's put him on. Now, Eddie will be here at 5 o'clock tonight to break through everything. But, like, nobody walks up to other people in real life being like, why aren't you someone different? That's just not how real life works. It's never happened in my entire life. Which makes no sense. Chris Paul is the guy, as he's been. 8,100 on FanDuel. And in the most ridiculous thing ever, 6,700 on DraftKings. I have 60% Chris Paul on DK. That's where I'm going. I'll have a ton of Chris Paul one way or the other. I hope Harden plays so I can do this and not be with the field. Because if Harden doesn't play, then Chris Paul's owned at like 80%, 90%. And that's annoying. I want to play Chris Paul because I think he's a really good play even if Harden is in. And I want to be above the field if that's the case. So love Chris Paul. I'm probably just going to continue to match the field on Clint Capella. Tough when you don't leave the house to know about real life. Yeah, that's me. You got me. You got me. I don't know how I made it through 6 years of college, never leaving the house. Oh, God. Cossack, you're salty on a Sunday morning. Is House going to play 30-plus minutes? I don't see a mechanism for Daniel House to play 30 minutes unless someone is out. I assume that Harden, Capella, Paul, Gordon, Tucker all get 30-plus, and then the other 5 guys, soak up the rest of them on a matchup basis. Chris Paul's the guy you want the most. PJ Tucker is the guy that grades out for me constantly, that I have to manually adjust. Just doesn't do well with low usage guys that don't have any real scoring ability. The distributions for him don't look great, so I manually nerf him. If I'm ranking the Rockets and Harden is in, it is Paul, Harden, Capella, Tucker, Gordon. I'm rarely a big Eric Gordon fan. If Harden is out, Gordon should soak up a little bit extra usage. I would guess Gerald Green becomes mildly interesting. Yeah. Give me Chris Paul. And I hope James Harden is in. I want to have close to twice the field of Chris Paul with James Harden in. Now let's go to Minnesota, where this doesn't get any better, and again, the game is at 9. No Teague, no Covington, no Deng. Derrick Rose is questionable, so I have him in. Right now, Towns 11-4 on FanDuel, 10K on DK. I'm really not getting there. Now, if Derrick Rose is out, you certainly want to take a closer look. But for right now, I don't really need to get to Towns. It scares me because he's fantastic. It just doesn't feel like the spot for me. I just like so much more of like the Magic and the Kings, the Clippers-Nets game. Wiggins 6,300 on FanDuel is not very appealing to me. 5,500 on DK is kind of crazy. So he's at 25% expected ownership. That's the highest number on the Wolves. I'm only getting 9. This is a pace down spot for Minnesota. Rockets defense has been fantastic as of late, 4% better than league average over their last 15 games. It's a 109.75 implied total, second lowest on the main slate. I'm not getting there, even though Wiggins' price tag for 5,500 is super interesting. I just don't see it as the most advantageous matchup for him. Now, if Derrick Rose ends up being out, that's more usage to go to Wiggins. I end up getting there a little bit more. If Rose is in, I am very comfortable just not having Andrew Wiggins. Tyus Jones I have in for 28 minutes right now. Again, I have Rose in. So is Teague the best value play right now? Teague is literally not in this game, so the answer would be no. If Rose is in, I don't have any interest. I just don't see him being able to soak up enough minutes, but who knows? We could see a little bit more. I just don't want to go there. I'm not going to Tyus Jones. He's at 19% ownership. I just don't want it. I just don't see the need. I find this Minnesota side really unappealing. I don't have anybody more than Towns at 3% on FanDuel. I have Towns at 6 and Wiggins at 9 on DraftKings, and that's it. I'm mostly avoiding Minnesota. It's not a spot I want to be. So, it's mostly a fade for me. I have very little Minnesota. I have very little Atlanta. Both teams sub 110 implied totals in defensive matchups. It's just not for me. So is Jones the best value play right now? Not to me. I don't have him at all. I don't need to be in this Minnesota game. If Rose is out, Tyus Jones looks a lot better because he probably gets like 32 minutes instead. Let's close this out. Final game. I can't believe that I've been doing this for an hour and 20 minutes already. I feel like I've been on for 10 minutes. I also didn't put a tweet out on YouTube, which I just realized now. Oh well. Oh, wait. Is that news? Josh Hart available to play. Good to know. All right, closing it out. Clippers and Nets. Antoine Murphy, is House still in play? Only if someone is out. There's no real place for him to pick up enough minutes otherwise. That means you love the job, Joff. Yeah, I certainly do. 118.5 implied total for the Clippers, 112.5 for the Nets. 6-point favorites here for the Clips at home. Pace up spot. Should be a pretty quick game. We'll start on Lou Will, 7,600 on FanDuel, 6,900 on DraftKings. Just with the field here, 15 to 20% seems fine. I'm more under on this game than over. We've got Gallo, 34% expected on FanDuel, 18 on DK. I'm either with it or just a notch above. The guy that I'm not on, and he's a guy that I've been on quite a bit lately, but minutes are trending down a little bit. I've only got him in for 26 here. Montrezl Harrell, 7,800 on FanDuel, 66 on DK. He's at 23% expected ownership on FanDuel. He's at 20 on DraftKings, and I have 5 and 3 respectively. So Harrell is one of my bigger fades out of this game. Zubac is the guy that I'm looking at on DraftKings. He's 4,700. I've got him in for 24 minutes. He's like 1.1, 1.2 in that area, fantasy point per minute guy. So I'm looking there on DraftKings. I don't want to use him as my only center on FanDuel, but I think he makes for a nice value play on DraftKings. I don't have much interest in Pat Bev. I don't have much interest in Gilgeous-Alexander. I'm basically just looking at Gallo and Lou Will from the Clippers, with Zubac on DK being a very specific play because of price. Now for Brooklyn. 7,900 on FanDuel, 7,100 on DK. I have got myself quite a bit of D'Angelo Russell. I like this up and down nature of the game. I've got him in for 30 minutes. I might be over projecting him a little bit, but I'm going to be over the field on Russell on both sites. He's a guy that I want to have. Jarrett Allen, 6,100 on FanDuel, 5,300 on DK. Getting a lot of ownership here. 19% on FanDuel, 38% on DraftKings. His minutes have been solidified a little bit lately. I got him in for 29 right now, but I'm going to be coming in well under that 38% number. Again, I don't really love these center-only guys. I find it really hard to allocate a ton of ownership here. It's just easier to make lineups when you can fit in different people. So Allen is going to be a relatively big fade for me in the same vein as Montrezl Harrell. There's just too much to like in other games. Not really interested in Dinwiddie. There's a lot of punt potential from the FanDuel Brooklyn side, whether that's Damari Carroll at 3,800, who I'm getting a lot of, Ed Davis at 3,900. So they're just guys that I want to get because they should play, roughly 20 minutes at, depending on who you are, around, 0.9 FanDuel points per minute. So I'll be using quite a bit of Ed Davis and Carroll on FanDuel as punts. I won't be really using those guys on DraftKings. On DK, I think Joe Harris looks really interesting. We have him at 1% expected ownership, and that's because he's at 4,900. He's $200 more expensive than he is on FanDuel, but I don't mind going there just because of his eligibilities. You get Joe Harris as a shooting guard, small forward. You can put him in shooting guard, small forward, guard, forward, utility. That's 5 out of the 8 spots that can get Joe Harris. He's just easier to get to and should have higher exposure than most people. Like, Joe Harris should never have 1% because of how many different places you can put him. So I'm going to be over the field on Joe Harris. He's not great. He's like a 0.7 to 0.8 FanDuel point per minute guy. We should play 30 minutes if the stroke is there. I like the idea. It's a difficult spot because of Dinwiddie being back, but I like Joe Harris today. I don't mind Karis LeVert for 4,800 on DraftKings, especially with Alan Crabb out. So if I'm summing up the Brooklyn side, D'Angelo Russell is my star. Ed Davis and Damari Carroll look like nice punts on FanDuel. Joe Harris interesting because of his position. On the DK side, it's all Russell. A little bit of Allen, but I'm fading the large ownership. A little bit of LeVert, and I like the idea of using Joe Harris if he's going to be 1% owned. There we go. 8-game lap through everything. Fast Eddie will be here for you guys tonight, live before lock. I don't know if I could jump on with him or not. It's up in the air. But I'll be able to poke around in Slack for most of the day. So if you're a premium member, NBA strategy, well, you can just join Slack. If you're not a premium member, NBA strategy is the promo code, 50% off your first month, including packages with Fantasy Cruncher. So join in with me. Come check us out for a month. As usual, we are brought to you by Thrive Fantasy. Go to bit.ly/Awesemo. Enter the promo code AwesemoStrat. One big word. You can get a free $5 on Thrive. That is the place where I handily assault Adam, giving him, 4 straight beatings. Got the brooms out. Wait, hold on. Got the brooms out. That's me sweeping. I don't sweep all that often. So there it is. Thank you guys for joining me. Best of luck on this split slate across the board. You'll see me and Adam tomorrow morning on Monday, where I just verbally abuse him for the first couple minutes. So tune into that. Thanks, guys. I'm out of here. Bye.